Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and on a Friday I do my regular Verkada Friday. But today we're not going to talk about Verkada. What we're going to talk is about an enabling technology, because one of the key things to be able to deliver cameras and sensors and things into some areas that might be more difficult to access through connectivity or even mobile environments, we needed a partner for that. So we've actually partnered up with Cradlepoint, who you may have seen in the news recently, because Cradlepoint also have been snapped up by Ericsson. So I think they paid $1.1 billion for them a few days, well, last week I think it was, or earlier this week. So very interesting technology, and I'll tell you a little bit about why we've decided to work with them as well. What I was going to do first, though, is just give you a picture of what I'm doing and how I'm doing this again, because a lot of people have asked how I'm generating these videos. So if I put my dual screen on, so what I have is I use multiple screens, and I use a piece of software called OBS. OBS allows me to stream directly to any of the streaming platforms, or in my case, I use Restream. So I stream to Restream, and then Restream then sends it to where I want it to go. So currently I'm restreaming to YouTube, because there are people on YouTube who might be interested in what I'm talking about. Twitch, because it's a common area that a lot of people play games and things, and again it's a technology related conversation, so there's a good chance there's going to be the right audience there. I also send it to YouTube because it keeps a copy. I've got like a web archive then of all the videos that I've created on there, and then it also goes to LinkedIn Live. Not tried using LinkedIn Live events yet. That'll be something to try in the near future, and have to work out how we do it. It's a little bit more complicated. You have to effectively set up the event and send out invitations, and then you effectively use LinkedIn Live into the event, which would be what I'd be using OBS and Restream for to do that. The benefit of OBS is what I can do is change the look and feel of the screen, even though it's actually a live stream video. A lot of people would actually do video recording, and then they would do post-production editing on it. So they'd add in things like the logo I've got at the top, any naming things. When I do interviews, I've got the names of the people below it as well. And I do this by creating scenes which are listed down here, and I actually can select the scenes using a Stream Deck. So I can press a button, it'll take me to that particular scene, so it'll put the particular background image, it sets up the right audio, also sorts out what video streams are in there. So if I want to go over to my presentation, which I've got on my right hand screen, which I'm going to do in a second, all I do is press the presentation button, and there we are, we've got the presentation up on the screen as well straight away. So it's really simple then to be able to make it look and feel a little bit more professional when I'm putting it together. But again, it's not some kind of whizzy pre-recorded video that's then post-edited. This is all done on the fly. I'm doing it as I'm going along, using OBS to just put the finishing touches to it as we're doing it in live stream format. So let's come back to what I was going to talk about. So from our perspective, we might have sites where we want to put something like environmental sensing, be able to look at temperature, humidity, TVOC, so volatile organic compounds. I might want to look at the amount of particulate matter in the air, lots of other things we might want to monitor. Also, we might want to put cameras from a security perspective. That could be internal or external. And it could be we may want to do the same thing in a mobile environment, so in the back of a vehicle. So we might want to be able to monitor, expensive goods, or monitor for any spillages of chemicals in a vehicle that's carrying, volatile organic compound materials. So lots of places we could do that, or it could be just a manufacturing facility that's out in the back of beyond, and there is no real connectivity available to do it. So we needed to find a way to do that. One way would be just to have a direct connection to the internet from it, but we thought that might be a bit limiting. So What I thought I'd do is just take you through some of the pieces about how things are changing and where our partner Cradlepoint are going with this. So, if you look at the traditional edge technology, you would have like a hubs and spoke type environment. It's very rigid. It's commonly a wired piece. So you've got either your data center or your cloud environment. Sometimes nowadays it could be a public cloud environment as a center of this, and then spokes out to all of the different pieces that are out there. It's also quite siloed, based on the type of functionality it's being used for, and it's got very little flexibility in it as well. So, once it's in place, you can't really change its use very easily and reconfigure it. So you're a bit stuck. It's also quite dependent on the hardware and the connection that you've got as well. So it can be quite limiting in what you've got and how you do it. On the other side, what we're trying to do is create more elastic environment. So we need to have the ability to create dynamic connections. It could be, a mobile vehicle, coming onto the network and being connected as it drives around. And we also want to be able to change the reach to that platform. So it might be want to increase capacity, might want to change the carrier, depending on the signal quality and things wherever we are. So there's lots of reasons we want to do that, but also we might not be just connecting to one device. It might be multiple devices in that space that we're connecting between each one of them. And also we might want to then bring that back to different types of services or even run services locally as well. So one of the things a lot of people are doing, especially in the IoT space, is they're actually running local computing activity, maybe some AI or machine learning algorithms to be able to capture data, process it locally, and then send the data back to whichever IoT environment they're using in public cloud or to their own infrastructure at that point. Save sending raw data, send it pre-processed. So, a lot of difference in what people are doing. So, moving on. One thing that providing this wireless WAN will allow us to do is provide some diverse routing, because if you're restricted purely to a WAN connection from a customer premise, if there is some kind of issue, so you get a digger goes through the cables, you're going to have an outage. Do you really want all your security and essential monitoring not available for a few days while they get the cables fixed and have it back up and running? That might also be some kind of outage in the infrastructure as well that could be lost. So having that second over-the-air WAN capability makes a big difference. So it ensures you've got that diverse routing. I think the other thing is this agility. So be able to set up a fixed branch quickly. So deploy the equipment, have it up and running, because it's on a wireless network. It can be deployed and up and running in a few hours or a couple of days, rather than a minimum of 10 days for something like a DSL or fiber to cab type product, 30 to 90 days if it's some kind of fiber product. It also could be something that's temporary. So you've got a kiosk that you put out in a shopping centre. It could go out into the street, and it moves around different days in different places. So having that ability to be agile in that space. Also, the IoT side, and also machines. So it could be, the machine could be some kind of manufacturing process. We're in conversation with a number of manufacturers about how they pull back telematic data from their infrastructure, or even push data to it. It could be also a number of other IoT type devices that measure air quality and understand what's happening around them, noise wise and things like that. It could be vending machines. So there's a variety of things it could be there. Plus, that mobile capability, so a mobile branch to a business. It could be, a blue light service, so, police, fire or ambulance service, having some kind of application that can actually be used while it's mobile as well. So lots of different changes there in the way we want to do this. Also, you want it to be dependable, because if you're taking EPOS transactions, or it is a blue light service, or even controlling some kind of traffic infrastructure, you want it to work. It's got to be dependable. You can't really have something that it's there one minute and gone the next. And then finally, we need performance. A lot of people, especially in that low end machine and IoT space, are using GPRS data, and it's fine if you've got very small amounts of data to send intermittently. But as we're moving towards this world where we're actually pulling more information and providing more information, that bandwidth is quite important. So having the ability to use that traditional LTE, especially if you're using multiple radios, to actually get 600 meg is one thing, but with the latest LTE, we can actually get a gigabit, through that single LTE environment. LTE, for those not familiar, 4G environment, and then finally, when we get into our 5G environment, a benefit I've got living in Birmingham, it's actually one of the starting points for 5G. So EE's network is spread across Birmingham, and some other of the providers are actually setting up infrastructure in Birmingham as well. But 5G gives us the option up to 10 gig. So very high speeds over wireless transmission without the need for long-term time for deploying that latency to get in place, and also cost as well, cost being a lot lower. But let's think about, one of the key things that we want when we're doing this is we want to make it as easy as possible to deploy. From our perspective, we want to be able to just send the equipment out, and the installer sticks it on the wall, either internally or externally, depending on the requirements. Turn it on and it comes up and works. It gets its configuration and away it goes. It's on the network, and then whatever's connected to it can work. We want to be able to monitor it, so we want to see if it's available. We want to understand the amount of bandwidth it's going through it, and we need to be able to get set up alerts as well to understand if it's been tampered with or power's off or any of those kind of things. We also want to be able to control it, but we need to control it out of band. And those who are not familiar with that terminology is in band is if you're actually using the bandwidth that you're using for internet access, or WAN access or VPN access for the devices to actually manage the unit. Out of band separates it off, so you're not actually consuming any of your bandwidth to be able to do that. Also, we want to be able to extend the capabilities, and from our perspective, the use of these devices, we can actually use Kubernetes containers on them, so we can actually build an application for local processing of IoT data or whatever we want to do locally, and we can deploy it as a container using Kubernetes. It means that we write our code once and we can put it anywhere, and it doesn't matter what type of device it's on, as long as that device has got the capability to run Kubernetes and containers, and secondly, it's got enough memory and processing power to be able to do what we want it to do. So again, gives us a lot more control over what we do and the data we pull back from it. But finally, we want to be able to analyze the environment. We need to understand what's happening with applications. We need to understand the network, and also the device itself on the end of that network. What throughput are we getting? Are we having issues with jitter or clipping on there? So jitter, packets that are coming in out of time. Clipping is where we're actually losing packets, so they're being dropped in transmission. So understanding all of that, and also understand that cellular side of things as well. The health of that cellular, is a signal strength decent enough? What throughput are we getting through the cellular side of things? How much data are we actually consuming on there? Because it might be we need to be careful about how much data we consume. Understanding both the WAN and the LAN side. So the LAN side, so what's attached to that appliance that's on the local area. So it could be connect over wireless directly from the Cradlepoint unit, or it could be cable connected to it, because we may want to run a couple of devices that are power over Ethernet from it as well. So understanding that LAN and WAN metrics as well is quite key. Then final, location services, because especially if it's a mobile device and or it's a device that's not been repositioned. So it was used on a construction site, and each time it was moved, we want to have location-based services so we understand where it is, and it's quite important. And even more important if it's something that's mobile all the time. So if it was in a blue light service, so in a police car, in the back of an ambulance, or in a fire engine, we need to understand where it is, and also get those metrics in line with that, so we can see if there are any, black holes that we're traveling through part of the process and things. So really important to us. So from our perspective, what Cradlepoint gives us is a really consistent way to connect sensors and camera systems, or even access control systems, in sites where we need to have diverse connectivity, or sites where we don't have the ability to deliver fixed capability for networking. What it's giving us is not just that connectivity, it's giving us the ability to build out a meshed WAN, wireless wide area network, allow us to create VPN tunnels to secure data that's been transmitted. And also we can actually use some of the IoT type services in cloud services if we want to feed those services with data from either IoT devices such as sensors, or from alternative IoT type capabilities. Hopefully that's given you a bit of a picture of what we're trying to achieve and how we're doing it. We're working with a number of organisations, part of a digital demonstrator project at the moment that's been funded by Innovate UK. We're going to try and get some of those partners on and talk about what they're doing. But part of the process, we're discussing what we're doing and what they're doing, and a lot of these things are becoming quite common. That telematics piece. How do we communicate with our devices wherever they are? Whether that's a milling machine for milling rice, with Cool Mill are working on that. Also, how do we understand what's happening from a health perspective with a boiler system that's been deployed in a social housing environment, like Baxi Boilers are planning to do for their heat as a service solution. So a lot of things that people are trying to do are quite common. And also then the issues are very common as well, is bandwidth, availability, protecting the data. How do you deploy in a secure environment? How do you understand where it is located? So lots of things are very similar there. Hopefully this has been of interest to you. If not, don't watch. I'm not forcing anybody to watch these videos. I'm just trying to give you a picture of what we're trying to do, the benefits we're getting from them, and hopefully we can maybe help one or two of you in the future with some of the solutions that we're working on. Monday, we're back to our Diamante Monday, where we talk about all things containerized, so containers, Kubernetes. We're hoping to be able to show you some more about our deployment of a Diamante cluster. We put a 4-node cluster into our data center this week. We are to the point now that the cluster is ready to accept workloads. We've actually videoed all of it, so we're hoping to show some of that on Monday. So check in with me at 3 p.m. on Monday if you want to see a little bit more about a Diamante deployment, and hopefully we'll be able to quite quickly show you some deployments of container-based workloads on there, but also stateful workloads as well. Right, thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend, and hopefully see you again soon.